I've got a little intro bit for you.
Sure.
See if I can get it to play.
Execute Order 66.
I just heard 66. Okay. Here we go. I got feedback somewhere.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay. The Will Rogers Highway was established in 1926. It was known as the Main Street of America. It was one of the original highways within the U.S. highway system. It started in Chicago, Illinois, traveled through Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, before finally ending in beautiful Santa Monica, California. It covered over 2,000 miles of U.S. soil. And this particular U.S. route became very popular in culture as people learned that they could get their kicks on Route 66. This is episode 66 of PHP Ugly. I'm Eric Van Johnson. Here with
These intro bits are getting longer and longer.
That was a long one.
You got to figure out, like, okay, where's this going? Where's it going?
I was telling Beck, she's like, why do you do this? I'm like, I don't know, it's fun. And I like to throw in as many numbers as I can before I get to the actual number because, the guys are just waiting for it to be over. So they're just waiting to hear that number so it can be done. And I just like to drag it on a little bit.
Next week is going to be an hour intro and then we're done.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. I was disappointed last week. You know how hard I worked to get a Adam West in 65 reference. That's why I did the whole Three Stooges last feature film thing so I could speak about Adam West. Of course, the Batman television series started in 1966. So that would have been perfect had he lived another week. He's so selfish.
Bastard.
He could have just lived one more week and I would have had the material I needed.
You would have been so much happier. Not that he died, but
I don't know if you'd be happier.
Comments right out. John Congdon. Some very old coffee, actually.
Ugh. Where's the whiskey?
Man, I killed the scotch earlier today. I'm afraid to drink more. I should have gotten more, though. I should. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Good, but I have a question for you. Why LaraChat Live is live? PHP Ugly is also done live. People can listen to us live. Why are we not PHP Ugly live?
We don't encourage people to listen to us live.
Yeah, I think we're gonna save the live for when we're on a stage doing it.
No, we're just basically not encouraging the live. We want the opportunity to cut out the bad parts. We don't really want people to listen to us live, John. Come on now.
Well,
that's true. There are some hard edits.
The one thing I do have a complaint on is the larachat.com or .co, right? larachat.co domain. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find. If you're going to tout it as a live podcast, it's hard to find the live link.
It's not on the homepage. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/larachat.
No,
I have to give you props, John.
There should be a simple button right here, like listen live. We're live. Listen.
I have to give you props. You tweeted out that our show today. You've never promoted anything I've done like that before. Like
that's because I'm not normally. Well, you do it at the time I'm with my kids. It's not conducive to me listening live.
I know you don't know how badly. So the topic of today's LaraChat Live was
mental health.
Well, not the topic, but one of the driving topics. Yeah, was mental health, OSMI. We had Joe Ferguson on, and we talked a lot about mental health. And I was so trying to get in to the practices you have, John. Where I mean, you're pretty vigilant on, I mean, more so than a lot of other people. I understand you can't always accommodate the family, but you're pretty vigilant on like putting family first. 5 o'clock, I'm done working. I have, X amount of time with the family before I come back to the computer and do stuff. And you've kind of defined these routines. I was, and not only do you do it for yourself, but you do it for me. I mean, there have been many a times you said, "Hey, you need to take some time. Why don't you and the family go have some dinner and just don't worry about this right now. We'll address it in the morning. It's not that big of a deal." And I mean, seriously, he's for a flight to New York. I told him my schedule for New York. I'm like, we'll be getting in Monday. Conference is Tuesday. Conference Tuesday, Wednesday, and we fly out Thursday. He's like, "What were you thinking?" He's like, take your wife, go out there before the weekend, and spend the weekend in New York with your wife. Why? Because Rebecca's coming with me. He's like, "Why wouldn't you have done that? Just do that." I'm like, "Because I have things to do." He's like, "No, take the weekend and spend it with your wife." So I really kind of wanted to get to that in the show, but there was just so much to talk about, so much to cover. I never got to that.
The funny thing is the like 20 seconds I actually listened to was that part where they're talking about being with the work-life balance. And I was like, "Oh, that would have been perfect."
Yeah.
It is. I feel I work a ton. I put in a ton of hours, but it's how and when I do it. And very regimented about, like you said, this is my time for spending with the wife and kids. And
yeah, you're a light type A personality.
What's that?
Well, the type A is the sort of anal retentive, lots of structure and ambition.
I don't think so. I don't think John is type A at all.
I think he's
I think
he does a lot of structure.
Structure is important for me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And he started his own business, which is classic type A. But he isn't an asshole either, which is very classic type A.
I don't know about that. You haven't been around him lately. I mean, you've moved out of the state, so you might have. No,
he's no Frank Wallen, but he is a genuinely nice person.
Nice reference there.
One of our meetup and coworkers is Frank, and he is nice past what you could possibly call a fault. He is just outright the nicest person. And
yeah, Frank's pretty accommodating.
I tested him once. I said something really mean to him, and he just said, "Well, that's unfortunate you feel that way because I consider you a good friend of mine." You go, "Damn it, Frank."
Yeah. So I do kind of. I guess I owe an apology to you, Thomas. I should have reached out to you to see if you could make time for the show today. I know you like to pop on every now and then, and I just got so busy with work. I didn't even think about reaching out to you.
I thought you did previously, prior to this.
Well, I have done that before.
Yeah, and I reached out to Joe. So Joe, I don't know if it's Joe or who's doing it, but OSMI has a podcast. And I did reach out to Joe and let him know, hey, I think Thomas would be a good guest on the OSMI podcast because he's very open and frank about, the challenges he faces and being a developer and all that. So I did reach out in that direction, but I could have had him come on the show with Lairchat. But it was a tough show. I mean, it was a tough show to be on. I was telling the guys, it's like there was little dead air, and I think I did the least amount of talking I've done on one of the shows so far. There was so much material, especially for Joe to cover, so much material for him to go over and discuss, and it's just an hour just isn't enough time. It was tough.
Now we got to figure out how to get you not to talk on this show.
Zinger! Oh wait, I got a sound effect for that one. Oh, I had a sound effects for my Route 66. I had horns.
Oh no, you've ruined it all.
I totally ruined that one. I uploaded it special. I'll never use that sound effect ever again. and I had the Route 66. My wife
Hey,
had
Eric, what episode is this?
66. My wife had to remind me it's Route 66, not Route 66. I kept calling it Route because I'm into computers and it's a route. Everything's a route. She says no, it's route. You get your kicks on Route 66.
I got a
Better.
wonderful null route today.
Oh, yeah?
Comcast just dropped my connection in the middle of the day.
Oh, that's
you don't need that.
That shouldn't be too much of a problem. You can just watch Netflix while they're fixing it.
I'm embarrassed to say that I tried to.
Well, he's saying that because you can now download from Netflix, can't you?
Why would you do that? Your internet's always on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on an airplane.
So what prompted your poll, John? John sent out a poll, which, by the way, Twitter has an actual polling feature.
I know, but when I post to Twitter, it also goes to Facebook, and I was getting feedback. What prompted it? I don't remember.
Why don't you say what it was first?
So I just put out there, I was asking if you shut down your computers. And I never do. Never shut down my laptop, never shut down my desktop. And occasionally my desktop has issues. I've got probably hundreds of tabs open at any single time. I leave Slack and everything else running. And it lends itself to confusion for people that aren't computer people because it always shows them online. So it was more like, should I shut down one to avoid the memory issues, start fresh every day? That was another reason. I was waiting for people to say, yes, I do, because I want to come in and start fresh or have something, a clean slate every single day. So I was just curious what people were doing and kind of hit me, threw it out there. And it really does seem like if you're a developer, you leave your machine on all the time. If you're an occasional user, and you shut down.
Yeah.
For the most part.
What was funny, my father, before he started having his health issues, he would shut down the computer every time he walked out of the office. So he would come back and get on his computer like 3 or 4 times throughout the day, but he would have to reboot it I'm like, Dad, just keep the computer on. He's like, oh, no, your power and hackers and sun rays, and that man shut down his computer every time he walked out of his office.
Wow, that's dedication there.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm definitely I've been leave my system running guy for a long time, so it's laziness, to be honest with you.
I think when I discovered MP3s in the mid '90s was when I stopped shutting down my machine altogether.
Because you're downloading constantly.
I was constantly downloading, and I was playing music when I was laying down in my room or I was doing anything. I'd go to sleep to a movie or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was never a point where my computer wasn't in use, and I was doing folding at home and stuff like that.
Well, the task that actually just interrupt real quick. The task that actually had me questioning it was, I was supposed to record the intro for the last episode, and I went to record it, and every time I did, I feel like I had a perfect take, and I listened to it, and there was a stutter in it, and it was driving me absolutely nuts. And then the following day, I'm on various conference calls, and I think, Eric, you told me I sounded like a robot, and other people were telling me I sounded like Max Headroom. I was like, I got to reboot. It was driving me crazy.
Yeah. So, John, I don't know if you've ever been to. I know you've lived here in San Diego for about 5-6 years now.
5 years. Yep.
5 years.
It's coming up on 5 years in 8 days.
Have you ever been to Kobe's Swap Meet down at Sports Arena?
No.
Oh, I have.
Thomas? I was like, Thomas, you were born and raised here, so you more than likely have been there a couple times. So Kobe's Swap Meet in San Diego is huge. Well, depending on time of year and all this, but it has a tendency to get really large. when I lived in Ocean Beach, which was very close to the sports arena where Kobe's is, Beck and I mean, that would be part of our weekend before we had kids. We'd go to Kobe's, we'd get some fresh fruit or whatever, and it'd just be one of the things we did. Now it's a swap meet, so there's a lot of junk. But Beck and I were feeling nostalgic the other day, and we're like, hey, let's head over to Kobe's. We haven't been to Kobe's in years, and we go, and of course, again, it's a swap meet, so there's a lot of junk, spinners everywhere. Every freaking aisle had spinners. But you know what else they had a lot of? There had to been a dozen, maybe more, of these hack-ass people selling streaming boxes. Like some sort of variation of an internet streaming machine. Hey, you don't need an antenna, you don't need cable, just buy this, Joe Blow streaming box, and you can have all the movies you want. And I'm like looking at this stuff, I'm like, holy, what is this? Like, how has this gotten so prolific? Or, how are all these little streaming boxes making money, and how are they even doing it legally? It's just,
well, they're not.
There was so many. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe how many there were, though.
Yeah, that started when China started producing these small boxes that were capable of 1080p streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it all came out of a project called XBMC, the Xbox Media Center.
I remember. Yep.
And that turned into Kodi, Kodi.
Mm-hmm.
And people just started installing and bundling all of these streaming site plugins.
That's interesting. So you think these are probably Kodi boxes, huh?
I know they are, because Kodi is getting in a lot of trouble for what plugins people are including when they start selling these boxes. Mm-hmm. I've been using Kodi since it was XBMC for the original Xbox gigantic machine. I had a modified Xbox that was running Kodi. So it's been well over a decade for me that I've been using their code. And it's because it's great. It's fantastic software. But they are getting in trouble because of these flea market resellers that are not honest.
What are you doing with it? What are you using it for?
Pirating TV shows and movies.
Oh.
So that was the weird thing about it, right? It's like I'm listening to the sales pitch from one guy. I'm kind of like, I'm not there. I'm kind of eavesdropping on the sales pitch. He's like selling it hard to this lady, and you can tell she had no idea what she was looking at. And he was doing the whole pitch of, you don't need an antenna, you don't need cable, you don't need anything. And he's like, quite frankly, you don't even actually need internet. This box has the ability where you can just plug in a USB port and it'll upload the movies itself. You just don't get the movies on a USB drive. I'm like, fuck are you talking about? That's not even something you can, like,
that's 100% something you can do.
We can do. Excuse me. We can do. But
no, even high schoolers can do. Elementary students can do. I mean, a thumb drive for $5 that can store the latest movie that came out, Kong Skull Island, was just released on pirated Blu-ray 4K this afternoon. That moves its way through a school fast.
What I'm trying to get to is the person he was talking to definitely seemed like she had the expectation of, oh, okay, I can go to Walmart and buy a USB drive that has Skull Island on it.
Sure.
I don't think she was in the mindset of, I have to do this pirating. I'm going down this pirating path. But then he was saying, you go to our marketplace and you can download apps for Netflix, and I'm like, really? I mean, what do you? It's not part of the package. It was dicey. I didn't even think that it was a Kodi box.
No, it's definitely a Kodi box.
I should have seen how much they were selling them for.
They're usually around $35.
Oh, that's cheap. Wow.
Yeah.
35. It's funny too, because the Roku Express, the thing I got for my father when I was out in Arizona, those are like $35, and that's all legal. I mean, of course, and this is where you start to lose people like my mother. It's I tell them like, yeah, the Roku's $35. She goes, well, I'm going to go buy a couple because I have a few TVs. I'm like, okay, but you still have to have subscriptions for all the services you use on Roku. So like Netflix doesn't come free with Roku, and Hulu doesn't come free. You have to have subscriptions. Well, how much are those? And then you start doing the math and it's like, well, it doesn't seem worth it. And it's like,
well, you
that's
don't need all of them.
of being legal.
Well, yeah, Hulu sucks. Netflix is okay.
I've been saying for a while. I right now I'm holding on to Hulu because the wife has got some series that she's watching on it. So, but I'm done with Hulu. They dropped Comedy Central. They've dropped a few shows now. I turn it on. There's nothing. I can't even figure out what shows I want to watch because their stupid ass watch list thing is constantly shuffling things around. I'm done with them. I'm finished with Hulu. Idiots.
Well, I constantly put it on hold, so I'll pause it for a few months, reactivate it, watch a series, put it back on hold.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I think there's an unwritten rule in the piracy community, which is don't try to convert normies.
Mm.
Yeah,
if you run into a normal person, don't try to convert them. Don't try to get them pirating content that they don't care about or that they're willing to pay for. Because if you're willing to pay for something, pay for it. But if you're not, if you're in the piracy community, then all bets are off. But if you're not, then stay out and don't try to bring anybody in.
I think I'll stay out. Never been into that.
It's easier than the watching TV community. No, I mean, like, that's the thing about piracy is that as long as piracy is easier than paying for something, then piracy will always win.
So, all right, we're talking about piracy. This leads me into another issue. This is why this whole piracy thing is absolutely ridiculous. I posted today on Twitter. So I went right here. Look at that. This little device right here. I love this thing. I'm addicted to this. I'm not a video blogger, but I may have to become one. The Samsung 360 camera. This thing is genius. I got one of these. I've been I've been doing some live streaming and picture taking on that, and that was fine. And the place we go co-work at is this crepe shop in the town that I live in. And we've become pretty good friends with the owner. And we've been sharing, talking to him. And one of the things he said is, hey, you should have like a streaming camera in here so people can, come to your store, over the internet. And we talked about it. He thought it was a good idea. And, when I got this, I brought it in today because today was our co-working day. I'm like, hey, LG, check out this camera. You can live stream. The people watching it have a complete 360 visual of your store. I put it right over his little crepe grill, kicked it on, started live streaming for about 15, 20 minutes, and, turned it off, showed him all the features and everything. He's like, this is dynamite. I absolutely love this. And it's funny, I said, the only thing you might want to think about doing is muting the mic because the mic is super sensitive and you don't want it picking up like customers' conversations or even your conversations that you just don't want to share. So I would probably mute the mic, but keep the video going. He's like, oh yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. And it couldn't have been 15, 20 minutes later because I was still at the shop. 15, 20 minutes later, I get this notification from YouTube saying, oh hey, we're taking down your video, which, mind you, the video it had the what's it, not private, it wasn't a public
as a link only.
Right, link only. So you had to have the link to get to it. It wasn't publicly accessible. So it was the link only. YouTube sends me an email saying, hey, we're taking down this video due to copyright infringement. And it referenced the Jimi Hendrix song that was playing in the background of the crepe shop at the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you flipping kidding me right now?
No, they're serious about that shit.
But did you have the? I know you were only sharing my link, but was it a monetized video?
No, it
Just
was
out
on
of
my
curiosity.
personal account.
It does not matter. They don't. They have an automatic content cop on everything that gets uploaded.
Yeah.
And you know what people are doing to circumvent it?
Hmm.
They're slowing the track down to like half speed, and then they're telling users in the comments to double the speed using YouTube's player.
Well, and it was weird because when I went back, I can actually still view it. So when I went back to listen,
Right.
like the music doesn't even come on for like a good 3-4 minutes into the video. I mean, it's just there's nothing. It's just all this.
Doesn't matter.
It's,
You didn't pay for it.
that's insane. Absolutely insane.
It's one of the reasons people really hate on YouTube right now is that in order to monetize the platform, they had to give in to everybody's demands, and the music industry just steamrolled them.
Well, and it's funny because this crepe shop has an open mic night, and they got busted by some copyright police there and had to pay for this license, this yearly license that give them the okay for complete amateurs. Nobody gets paid. Amateurs to come into their shop and do an open mic where they may potentially play copyrighted music.
I thought it was legal to do covers, but is a cover?
Yeah, but it's
you have
also
to change
legal to.
it?
No, it's also legal to threaten anyone for anything and ask them for money for it.
That was the thing. I'm still not sure who he's paying. Like, I'm like, who do you think you're paying for that? I don't know.
He probably doesn't know, and it's probably not a real company.
No, well, that's the he keeps the paperwork with him. I should ask if you'd mind me looking at it and doing some research because I'd be curious to know who they are and how they even. I mean, this is not a chain restaurant. This is not a big strip mall. This is literally this one guy with a crepe shop in this corner little store. How did they even find him? It's just amazing. And I don't know what to say. It's disappointing. All right, man, rambling. Where are we at here? 28 minutes. All right, so I do have a development topic I want to talk to you guys about. I kept forgetting to bring this up, but one of the when we went to PHP Tech a few weeks back now, there was like a very common kind of theme I kept hearing. Well, there was a lot of people talking about GraphQL, which is definitely something I'm kind of getting interested in and want to look into. But one of the things I kept hearing a lot of people mention, it was deployments and the philosophy of doing lots of deployments. Every day we deploy 4 or 5 times a day. Every day we are always doing deployments. It's like I struggle with that philosophy. It's like, first thing, why are you deploying so much? Like, what do you think you're gaining by deploying so much? And B, how what sort of work are you doing that are requiring deployments every day? Like, John, do you
Gotta
remember?
be agile.
You remember these conversations?
Yeah, Facebook? They do like 40 deployments a day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Even
the whole
the
point
Facebook,
is,
I can easily understand.
yeah, the whole point is getting
Facebook
the
is-
code. Good.
Facebook is the king of A/B testing.
Yeah.
So they have departments that are developing their own idea, and they're given a number of users, and they deploy that idea out, and X number of users gets it, and then they see the results back from that day. That with that much flow on their
Traffic.
market, with that much traffic, they only have to have a new feature up for 10 minutes to have a solid list of reactions to it. And we
Exactly.
know
So-
that they do we know that they do a ton of back-end data manipulation and advertising manipulation, A/B testing. So that doesn't surprise me at all with that size.
Yeah, and the whole point is getting the code in there to make sure it doesn't break anything as well, right? So I could see every pull request getting, as long as you have the proper processes in place, having it go ahead and deploy to a subset of your servers, make sure it doesn't break anything. So
Yeah.
just because it's continuous deployment doesn't mean it goes out to all their servers. It's being deployed to maybe their beta servers that are tested. Or
And I'm
All
sure
right,
it
well,
goes through. I'm sure it goes through CI as well. So it's got hundreds of rules that are applied to it and checked before it can hit anything.
yeah, if the code base is well tested, then I can see doing that. And I think with Facebook, everything's wrapped in a feature. So just because the code is there doesn't mean it's being exacuted until the feature is turned on.
I think Facebook is a bad example because they're a humongous company which is absolutely, I mean, they have a product that's focused on developer, or a product built by developers, focused by developers. That's different. But even these smaller shops, I was getting the same feedback. Now, maybe you're right. Maybe I made the assumption they were referring to production. I still feel like they were, but perhaps you're right. Maybe they weren't always referring to production, or not their full production environment. Because, I mean, we do. If you're expanding it to that level, we probably do daily deployments in our environment. But they don't. For our and this is where I was headed. Now I probably feel like I'm very old school on this. I want a deployment day. I want the clients to know this is the day we're deploying. So
I would love that.
Don't ask for any changes to be made the day before, because the deployments are already set for Thursday, and everything's getting deployed on Thursday. So everybody knows to check new features on Thursday and move on. And I kind of have that mentality.
I get so torn on it.
Yeah.
Well,
we have
I know
another
that.
client way. They deploy on Wednesdays, right? Unless the code change is considered high impact, and then they do Wednesday night late after hours.
I know that we have a lot of copy that's hard coded into templates, and so since we're a customer facing business with pretty high volume, our copy gets changed daily. And a lot of small companies have a hovering CEO. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the CEO finds out that a button is 2 pixels off on a specific page, then all of a sudden the development department is getting tickets from the CEO that say you have to fix this, and you're not going to argue it. And that's where it's nice having a company, because the company I'm at now, we have a CTO, we have project managers, we're medium sized, and things flow a lot nicer in that way. I've worked for small companies where it was 2 programmers and the owner of the company, and that is a hellscape. I mean, it is changes every day, feature creep defined.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, yeah. I mean, that was the one thing, the one topic I kept meaning to bring up, and after every podcast, I'm like, oh man, I forgot to ask the guys their opinion on deployments. And we talked throughout the week, and it was one of those topics which I didn't want to share during the week, during one of our normal conversations, because I thought it'd be good for the show, and I was right.
So one of the things that I recently did for a client, they do everything off of domain, right? So you go to this domain, you're on their server, and they really wanted to beta test a few features that I've recently written, and they're kind of big, so they don't want it to go on the production. They're not sure how it's gonna to react. So instead of finding a way around it, they bought the domain data.com, and the same domain preview.com.
You're
And
kidding.
those domains now go to, server 5 and server 6.
They didn't know about subdomains?
That's a whole other issue. It's when I first started.
No way.
I mean, everything was so hard coded to www. I mean, so you should see the develop to make it work in dev, which is all I finally got working on subdomain. I have output buffers that when you make the call, it checks to see if you have an environment variable set and it matches where www should be and says, oh, we're in a development environment.
Oh my god.
I overwrite all the server variables to be www so everything works. And then the output buffer, when you're sending the data back, changes all the www to your subdomain. It is an absolute nightmare, but it works.
So wait, were they just coding on the live server when they first wrote this?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
They were so working in production, and there's still, I mean, not active development, but there are a lot of like fixes done in production, or some people still feel like there's a bunch of scripts that we're just now adding to Git because they only wanted it in production. They were terrified that these scripts would end up on a development server and be run. So
wow.
anyway, so I changed HA proxy to look for a cookie variable, and based on that cookie variable, it would say if it's one of these two values, it goes to those other servers. Otherwise, it goes to our normal cluster. And you stay on the same domain.
Who'd have thought?
And it all works. You
Thunk
don't have to
it.
buy new domains. Yeah. That hasn't been released yet. So I'm expecting, let's see, it's December this year, maybe January next year, it'll be released.
I was like, really, you think it's going to be this year?
Possible.
John has a special
that-
relationship with this one client. They love him to get death. They love the work he does. They love the code he does, but they're just unwilling to commit to actually releasing his code.
It's oftentimes 6 months, a year. I forget what the oldest one was, but it was close to 2 years before it was actually released. It was like,
And,
hey, I
mean,
wrote this.
these
I opened this PR 2 years ago, and it really would help us right now.
I'm like, he's talking about open PRs, not that, oh, he has some code he's ready to implement. No, he's talking open PRs that have sat in these repos for 2 years.
It becomes a running joke, and it's fun.
Who's moving tickets around here?
I moved one.
We haven't gotten any tickets, so nothing to worry about. So, Eric, from your LaraChat Live buddies, I think it was. It's killing me now. Neither. Matt. What's his last name?
Matt Lance?
No. The
Friend
one
of the show?
the last name we can never pronounce. Dinger. Then killing me now. Australia.
Michael Drinda?
Yeah.
Oh, Michael Dorinda. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody replied to one of his tweets and referenced you, and I can never find out where you were originally referenced. But anyway, somebody replied, and it made me go through this whole searching of this tweet conversation, and I stumbled upon scrutinizer-ci.com. So it is
You're doing some
it's a-
work with that today.
it's another CI tool, and so far I'm liking it. I've opened it up on a couple of repos so far, and it's interesting. I mean, there's now a handful of companies like this, but the people replying to that thread, a lot of them were touting this one, so I started checking it out.
Yeah, I noticed you did open up a PR for one of our clients after running their repo through Scrutinizer, and I kept meaning to take a look at it. So, I mean, is this again just like a standalone tool that you point to a repo? How does it work?
Yeah, you basically log in with your GitHub credentials, you add a repo to it. I mean, you're up and running within minutes with their very basic.
It's a SaaS?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Get
super
outta
quick.
here. Really?
If you wanted to run your tests,
Oh, it's pretty too.
yeah, depending on your test, how you do testing, it'll run that. It'll give you code coverage. I haven't gotten any of that set up yet because the repos that I've opened it up for, their tests actually hit a database, so I'd have to get that all configured and working. But as far as a tool, it's pretty nice until you realize, oh wait, this repo has 8,400 issues.
I must be looking at the wrong one. What's the URL for it?
Scrutinizer-ci.com.
Yeah. So one repo that I've run it on has 8,400 issues, 3,300 in PHP, and 5,000 in JavaScript.
Oh, it does JavaScript. That was going to be my next question. What language does it support? PHP, Python, Ruby, Java was planned. So it looks like PHP, Python, and Ruby are the main ones. And you say it does JavaScript as
And
well.
JavaScript as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then you're looking at it like, and it's hard. You start looking at the severity levels, and it says, hey, you got 9 critical bugs. And it's because var dump was left in some debugging code.
Yeah.
So
That's
Are we
good.
paying
Yeah,
for this?
yeah. What was that, Eric?
Are we paying for this? Or are
Not
we going
yet.
to be paying for this?
It's 14-day free trial.
Yeah.
Everything's in euros, so I haven't done the conversion yet, but the minimum price is €50 a month.
Yeah, that seems a little expensive.
Yeah.
I like, and of course, it's one of those things where like the next tier up, which is professional at €99 a month, has some real nice additions like security and it does security,
Analysis.
yeah, and weekly churning reports. I could definitely see the benefit of that too.
It's nice because it's unlimited repos and unlimited users. So for our business, if we did it for all of our clients, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as, but I think as soon as you start breaking it out, so if our clients wanted access to it, you have to create a separate organization because you don't want them accessing other information. So then I think it becomes $50 per organization.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Seems a little on the pricey side, but and I assume there's like a year commitment.
I don't know. I think it's month to month.
What's up?
It's just a
Thomas?
month to month.
I have
Kinda like
a
Windows
question for
16.
you guys. I want to move us along. I have a question that's been bugging me last couple days. So
Okay.
Hey, Thomas.
I
Before you go down this road, did you get stickers?
did. I got
Oh,
stickers
yeah.
and pins, and I got this kick-ass shirt.
Look at that shirt.
Yes, I got the Mr. Robot F Society shirt. I am very, very happy.
Somebody likes you.
My
He
wife
says,
squealed when she saw it.
He goes, I got this shirt, and stands up, realizing that 99% of the people only listen. They don't watch.
It is a Mr. Robot shirt, and I love it.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you very much.
Very well.
And yes, and I got my PHP Ugly stickers, which my daughter immediately tried to grab a stack of and start sticking everywhere.
Okay, so it's not just my kid.
Yeah, no, and she's 13. It's not like she's doing a toddler thing where she just stuck them on the fridge. She wanted to put them everywhere. It's strange. So I'm sending my kids off. I'm sending them over to San Diego to see their grandparents and et cetera, et cetera. And I was curious how many vacation hours I had because I want to take some time off while they're gone, spend some time with my wife, go visit Denver, whatever. So I pulled up in my time card or my paycheck to see how many hours I had. I have 144 hours of vacation time.
Nice.
The next day, there's a story on NPR about how Americans don't use their vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
And I start thinking, yeah, you know what? Ever since I've been working in tech, I never use my vacation time. And it's not because I'm afraid. What's
I'm
funny?
gonna share something with you. I'm trying to contribute to your story. When I worked for a Fortune 100 company, and I was in their tech department, it was a badge of pride people walked around with, that they've accumulated so much vacation time, they're not allowed to accumulate any more vacation. They topped off the amount of vacation they can accumulate, and so now they're just working and can't earn any more vacation. And this was like a badge of pride to them. I'm like,
Yeah,
you guys are idiots.
Exactly.
and there's a lot of that in American culture. But for me, it isn't that. For me, I love what I do. I don't really. I see a vacation as being a more stressful thing to do than work.
Especially planning it. That's my issue. I love going on them, but trying to figure out where to go and what to do, that's been a topic of contention between me and my wife for years, because I'm just not a planner. There's nothing I really want to go do, but once we're there, it's like, this is fun. Should do this more often.
Right. I don't want to do anything. Because everything's outside. They make you go outside to do stuff now. And B, everything costs money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, if I take vacation, if it was my dream environment, I would have like vacation where I took 2 weeks of vacation time for 1 week of vacation trip, and I got a week's worth of money to pay for a week's worth of time off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if I want to go somewhere and stay in a hotel, that means I got to save up to go relax.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to me because it's going to be stressful to go relax.
Well,
And
so
vacations can be so expensive too. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to prefix this by saying John and I are in a little bit of a different situation because of a lot of work that we've done. But for the most part, being a contractor, you go on vacation, you don't get paid, and so it becomes super expensive, and I mean terrifyingly expensive, because you never know when you're going to be out of work. So yeah, you might want to take a week off work. You might save up and be able to afford to take that week off work, but you don't realize that you come back a week or two later and your client realizes, hey, you know what, we really don't need you that bad because it didn't seem like we missed you that much. So goodbye.
You know what I've heard a lot of contractors are doing is workations.
That's if you have that ability to work remotely and stuff. That's actually pretty common. Yeah,
and that's kind of what John pulled off with the last convention you guys went to. When you went to PHP Tech, John brought his whole family along and sort of scheduled vacation around the conference and working and time with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, like I said, John and I, we're in a different realm because, quite frankly, we don't stop working. I mean, there's never a moment where we're not involved with doing something with the company, with a client, with some code. So even when we're on vacation, John can be as disconnected as he could possibly think he is. He's still working. Like we're both, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but our situation is completely different. We're we're beyond trying to earn a living. We're, trying to build a company. So it's a little different, but yeah, you're right. A lot of contractors who go to conferences, you see them between sessions, at lunch, on their laptop. They're not
On
playing
the phone.
games.
Every time.
They are working.
Yeah. You go to the lunch rooms in those conferences, and half the people are on the phone with a laptop in front of them and a sandwich in their mouth, talking about the project that they're working on.
So Thomas, the next question is: of that 120 hours, is that the max you can get? Have you lost hours because at the end of the year you have to give them up?
Question.
You know what? I'm 90% sure that I haven't, because we have a great HR department, and they would have emailed me and said, "Listen, dude, you're out of time.
Use it or lose it." Yeah.
Right. So, but now, right, I have a whole straight up month of vacation time. I'm not going to take a month off.
So again, that particular company I was referring to, there was an administrator there who had like it was probably about a month's worth of vacation time, and the way everything worked, or no, I'm sorry, it was probably it was probably a solid 3 weeks of 40-hour weeks. So it was probably 3 weeks. And the way you accrued vacation, you basically got an additional day every week or 3 weeks or whatever. However it worked out, he said, okay, well, I don't want to start losing vacation, so I'm going to take every Friday off now for the next 6 months. And
see, that's what I'm thinking. That's not a bad call.
I'm telling you, the guy was genius. And initially, his manager came back and said, "No way, you can't do that." And he looked up some obscure law that said, "Okay, you can limit my vacation, but you can't stop me from taking it if by not taking it, it costs me vacation." So basically, they got like caught in this catch-22. They couldn't stop him from taking vacation because he had maxed out his vacation. So they had to allow him to take vacation, but they didn't want him taking every Friday off. And then, initially it was like, if he took every Friday off, it would have been like 4 months. But because he kept accruing vacation, he ended up like tacking on another 2 or 3 months. It was insane. Eventually they let him do it. Like, there was some back and forth on it for about a week and a half. And then eventually they're like, okay, fuck it. You work 4 days a week now.
So here's my question. Could I swing it so I still worked 5 days a week, but I only worked 5 hours a day? Do you have to take your vacation in whole days?
Why would you want to do that?
5-hour day?
That depends on where you're working. If they break it down to the hour, but most places don't, at least from my experience.
I'm just trying to think of what's the most inconvenient. Maybe if I could just extend my lunch to a 2-hour lunch every day.
As if you don't today.
What?
Nah, I would totally.
What?
I would
Totally
cut
that part out. Cut that part out. It is at 53 minutes.
I would totally do the 4-day work week and take that 5th day off, but I wouldn't cut my work day down to 4 or 5 hours. And still have to work 5 days a week. It's like,
what if it was 4 or 5 arbitrary hours?
First thing, think about it.
When someone called you and said, "We need this fixed now," you're like, "Sorry, I'm on vacation."
What the hell would you get done in a day? You got like 4 hours to work. It's like, what would you get done?
I don't know, an extra nap.
Ever to get anything done. Thomas, take a week off and do something fun with your wife.
You know who doesn't do something fun to my wife? Ugh.
What happened?
My mic cut out there. That sounds like a great idea.
He was writing down another time to cut out of the podcast.
Fortunately for me,
he was groundhogging, seeing if the wife was around. I was like, my wife.
Fortunately for me, neither my boss nor my wife listen to the podcast.
Oh, man. All right. Okay, we're down to 4 minutes. Do we want to try to burn through some topics?
Well, I've got some
Well,
fantastic
this
doom and
topic.
gloom.
Well, we're gonna have to get to it quickly. I
It's
do want to
good.
talk about the Laravel Shift announcement.
Do
So
it.
Laravel Shift, everybody, we've talked about Laravel Shift in the past. We use it at Diego Dev. It's saved us a ton of money. It's where it's a software as a service. You point it to a Laravel application, and when Laravel comes out with a new version, you can pay to have it do the upgrade for you, basically. Which again, we talked about this a little bit when I did my Cake PHP presentation, because Cake PHP actually has an upgrade script that they include with their releases, and that was one of the things that gave JMac the inspiration to do it for Laravel, and he had enough foresight to monetize it and make some money off it, which was great for him. But he released an interesting newsletter today in which he says, "Hey, I'm not a fan of the whole philosophy of LTSs, the long-term support." And we've talked about it a little bit on the show, where there's like this gut instinct, especially when you work for a big company, especially when you're working in an enterprise environment. They like LTSs. They like stable releases that they know they're going to have a lot of support for. The last Laravel LTS was 5.1. The next Laravel LTS is going to be 5.5. Now, typically the way Laravel Shift works is you have to pay for a shift from, so in this case, you'd have to pay for a shift from 5.1 to 5.2, 5.2 to 5.3, 5.3 to 5.4, 5.4 to 5.5, if you wanted to get from 5.1 to 5.5.
How does that go again?
Because he understands that some people feel like LTSs are important, he's going to have a migration path from 5.1 directly to 5.5. I thought that was very nice of him. So that was a big announcement that he made. I am kind of curious, like if you're at a 5.2 or 5.3, if he'll bump you up to 5.5 as well. But yeah.
I'm surprised he doesn't already have it built to go from all versions to the most recent.
It sounds like what he's got is an upgrade path for each one that outputs a log that has to be analyzed by a human to make sure that X got executed correctly. So what you're seeing is the analysis of an output of a log entry for each version where he's got a script.
Mm.
So it's a two-step process. There's the automated process and then there's the human process. And because the human process is mandatory, then it has to be done for each step of the upgrade.
So it's interesting
right
that
now, he doesn't even analyze it. He puts it on you by opening a pull request back to your repo.
Well, that's the safety. That's him saying, "Listen, nothing's guaranteed because
I can almost guarantee you that he's not doing any sort of human analysis to these upgrades. First thing, he's got too many happening.
No way, because even when I run my tests, I have to see that it outputs all green.
I guarantee you, he's not doing any analysis, human analysis. I guarantee, unless the script breaks. And the one of the reasons why I know this is because you have to open up a ticket with him if things don't go well. So if you don't get the PR back to you, so he's not doing any sort of human analysis. And as a matter of fact, the other thing he announced in this newsletter was a special human service, which he's offering for a limited time. For a limited time, he will. Now, this sounds like it's a manual process. Upgrade your 4.x Laravel app to a 5.1 Laravel to get everybody off of Laravel 4.1 or 4.x.
I like his pricing schema here too. Unsure about your code, $60. Need help upgrading, $100. Don't have time to upgrade, $300. Still running Laravel 4.2, $123.
123.
$123 exactly.
It's not bad.
Limited time offer.
I mean, really, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
If it's less than a day of my time,
Yep.
then it's a good deal, because anything I do is going to take a day, and then a day testing, and then a day in project management or QA testing. So it's like, for me, my upgrade from 5.2 to 5.3 is still in a pull request, because it's got so much oversight required for it. There's no way I'm going to do 5.3 to 5.4 or 5.4 to 5.5 like that. I'm absolutely going to say, send it to Shift and I'll review the results.
Why would you know? Why'd you do it manually to begin with?
Because it took me weeks.
I'm
not a contractor. No, because it didn't occur to me to propose spending money on someone not me as the developer. I mean, I know that sounds either arrogant or naive, but it just didn't occur to me. Even though we've talked about Laravel Shift repeatedly in the past, I'm not a contractor. So
that's even more reason to use it. Contractor,
right?
I want to work as many hours as I can to make that money. Or when you're salaried, it's like, I can work on something else.
Yeah, when you're a contractor, though, you get to make that decision. For me, if I said send it over to Laravel Shift, it has to get approved from somebody above my boss, even if it's $200.
For that, it was $10, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It's like the dot point releases are like $10-15.
Like I said, didn't even occur to me.
Well,
that was the issue.
Well, listen, we're getting pretty late in the show here. I think if you want to get to some doom and gloom, we're gonna have to jump to it, buddy.
My first article here for doom and gloom.
Wait, excuse me. First article.
My first article. So we are tech savvy people. We can smell bullshit when it comes to tech stuff in the media from pretty far away. Tech Radar is one of the sites I follow for my news and stuff, and they issued a post a couple days ago saying Cisco claims it can find malware in encrypted data. My nose looked like my cat's when I open a can of tuna. I started smelling nose first towards everything immediately. If you know anything,
DNA center.
If you know anything about encryption, the encrypted result has to resemble static. It has to be purely random. It cannot resemble anything ever, or else your encryption is fundamentally flawed. That's the basis of encryption, is that it is just garbage until it's decrypted. And it's garbage in a mathematical way. It's literally garbage. Means nothing. And it is indistinguishable from random noise in the atmosphere. So reading through the entire article, you get down at the end where they say it analyzes metadata in traffic to identify threat vectors, which is not malware in encrypted data.
No.
It is data from an untrusted source.
They're analyzing domains, basically, right?
They're analyzing a lot of stuff, like how frequently something is coming from an IP, how valid an IP address is the IP address in North Korea or Russia when you're not usually on a North Korean website.
I see what you're saying.
Is the data coming in at a higher rate than usual?
So they're looking at traffic, not data.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed that an article like this could get written on a tech site in this day and age, where someone says they can
Fake
find
news.
malware. It's completely fake news, which bugs the crap out of me, because there is somebody now who constantly says fake news, and he's an asshole and an idiot, and to have it somewhat validated that yes, these media sources are falling for the clickbait stuff. Even the tech media sources are falling for clickbait headlines. It makes them assholes too.
Well, and somebody's going to pay the $25,000 for this 9500 series hardware that they release, and thinking, oh yeah. we're good, we're safe. All right. What else you got?
There's Uber.
Oh, is Uber a doom and gloom?
Yeah.
I thought you had another doom and gloom.
Well, just
Uber's
a bunch of jerks.
I didn't read the article, but was this them adding tipping?
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
They're trying to cover up for the fact that everyone in the company is racist, and there's no one racist and sexist, and that there's no one at the top anymore. Everyone's been fired.
Well, and so that includes the CEO as step down. But yeah, Uber's also. And I was asking. Apparently, you're still not supposed to be using Uber. My kids refused.
No, absolutely not.
We were in a situation where we have 2 vehicles. There's 4 adults now living in the house. My 2 daughters are well over, they're out of high school, and so we run into situations where occasionally somebody's stranded. We don't have enough vehicles for the amount of people who have to get places. So with us going to New York, we needed to make sure that one's going to be a situation either. So we had a situation where my one daughter was somewhere and she needed a ride and nobody could get to her. I'm like, okay, listen, just use the Uber app and get home. And she's, no, I'm not using Uber, Dad. You're not supposed to use Uber. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like, use Lyft then. And I went and I got her. It was a little bit of pain. It wasn't too bad, but I had to go get her a gift certificate to Lyft and then send it to her email, and she was able to buy it. But because of where we live, we don't live like in the heart of San Diego. So I go through this whole dog and pony show to get her a Lyft, and she pulls up Lyft and there's no Lyft drivers in our area. And so now she has this gift certificate sitting in her Lyft account that she can't use. And we have Uber. We have a lot of Uber in our area. I'm like, listen, I'm seeing Uber. Go Uber. I don't care about your morals. Call an Uber. So I log into Uber, and the way we had previously had to do it is I just let everybody use my Uber account. But I logged into Uber for this scenario, and it turns out Uber has this whole family plan where you can put other members of your family onto your account and manage it, and what credit card you want to use to pay for their ride. So, which is perfect. It's like, I don't want my wife or kids thinking about how they're going to pay for their Uber. I just want them to call a car. I don't care if it's Uber or Lyft. I want them to be able to call a car, get in that car, and come home, or get to wherever they want. I'll manage the account. And there was no way of doing that in Lyft. And of course, Uber has all these great features, but you're not supposed to use Uber anymore. So it was like, oh, this is driving me nuts.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I can imagine that your daughters would be upset about the massive sexual harassment lawsuits at Uber.
Hey, John, if you do use Uber, you can now tip your driver. Apparently,
that's the whole point of using Uber, is not having a tip.
Yeah,
right. It's like it was supposed to be on, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't use Lyft, because Lyft encouraged tipping. And it's like, well, I kind of don't want to have to.
Here's
have
a tip: work for Uber.
So the Uber CEO was asked to leave, and not so nice of a fashion, and he was not so willing to accommodate, but eventually he did bend, and that has to be weird, right? Because I mean, he's the CEO of the company. It is literally his company. It was his idea. He built it from the ground up. I mean, that would be like, us, I mean, on a smaller scale, us asking John to step down. It's literally his company. He
But I
has
imagine-
ownership to the company.
I imagine as an asshole, a lot of what would be considered normal things seem really weird to you.
You say the same
Uh,
thing. I got the feeling that he's calling you an asshole. That's why this seems weird. I'm not
No.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's weird that he's being forced out of his own company, but he is an asshole, so he's probably experiences a lot of weird things on a regular basis.
I guess. I mean, and to say it's still his company is kind of a weird thing because I mean it's a publicly traded company now. He has a board he has to answer to, so it's not truly his company. It's the company he built. But
And he's also a billionaire, so boo-hoo.
exactly. Yeah, it's like yeah, exactly. That's what it boils down to. He's not hurting. No, he's not hurting.
Yeah, don't mind me while I lobby to take away Medicare from everybody.
All right,
So-
last one.
Last one. This is delicious. This is a PSA for all of our listeners out there.
Yes,
Because initially I looked at this and thought, oh, look, it's another sensationalist headline. How hackers can steal your 2FA email account by getting you to sign up for another website.
And
And
2FA. Explain what 2FA is first.
two-factor authentication. So communication via your cell phone or via an encrypted key on your keychain, any number of two-factor. They can get around anything with this technique. And it is a combination of social engineering and scripting. And it's very smart. And I'm surprised it took this long for it to get a good write-up. But it is a man-in-the-middle attack. So the idea here is first off a multi-page registration form. This does not work, at least not well, with a registration form for a website where you've got one page that has all of your inputs.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do first is they ask you for your email address to sign up for X, whatever it be, free Bitcoins, whatever. Then, as soon as you enter in your email address, they pull up a list of the security procedures for that email provider. Let's say you're a Gmail user. So Gmail has two-factor authentication. The very first thing they do is they know when you're on a Gmail account and you click lost my password, what questions Gmail asks you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on a non-two-factor system, it says, what is your mother's maiden name or your first pet or whatever. It logs into Gmail, clicks the lost password link, and then it echoes the question back at you as your security for the new website you're signing up at.
Mm.
So it
So
says, so if Google asks,
John has a method for this, right? He has is one I have adopted. We've shared this with you before?
No, it doesn't matter. What's happening is different. You go to this attacker's website, and they say, "What's your email address?" You tell them,
Mm-hmm.
John@diegodev.com. They go to Gmail or whatever the service is and say, "Hey, I lost my password. I'm John@Gmail or John@diegodev.com." The service says, "What is your mother's maiden name, or what is your street address?"
Mm-hmm.
And then they ask you, "What is your street address?" Oh, I guess it does work. Never mind.
Right, it does work because you
You're
would
registering for another thing.
right.
right, so if you're using a password manager, then you can fill in your street address, your quote-unquote street address, with a random value. But if you're not using a password manager, you can't do that. And that's going to get 99% of the people. Now, the other thing is, if you've got two-factor authentication, they will click on the two-factor authentication for you on Gmail, which will send you a text with a password, a passcode in it for 2 minutes, let's say. Then they'll ask you, hey, we just sent you a text to verify your phone number. What's the code that we sent you? You type the code in, and now they have access to your account. Two-factor authentication actually makes it easier with this technique.
Yeah.
So
unless you realize that whatever text you got from that wasn't from them, it was from Google in this case.
Yeah, I mean, it's depending on a lot of factors, right? It's depending on this malicious site that you sign up for, whatever service or whatever form. I mean, I don't know.
People are stupid, and I loved.
Yeah,
I actually like Thomas's suggestion. You go to a site that says,
free Bitcoin.
Hey, free Bitcoin. We want to get you. We want you to learn about Bitcoin. We'll give you, half a Bitcoin for free. Just sign up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's
imagine
what's that URL, John?
Teenagers.
What's that URL? Because I like Bitcoin. I want some Bitcoin. Is that what? Oh, that was a test, wasn't it?
www.checkyourcreditsecurity.com. So it's a creative technique. It's surprisingly effective if you can get the person to go through the process of registering for a website. If you're on a website and they have a multi-page registration system, or if data is being changed on the page as you enter in your email address, that's bad. I would not trust a site that asked me to enter my email before it asked me to enter the rest of my security questions. And if they're asking you what street did you grow up on, instead of saying here's a list of questions, pick one of them and answer it, that's a problem. That's a big no-no. But companies like Google are going to have to address this. They're going to have to start sending texts. Instead of just saying this is your Google PIN, they're going to have to say this is your Google PIN. Do not use it to sign up for other services. If you've received this email while signing, or if you've received this text while signing up for a service, then immediately disregard it and cancel your service, whatever. But with good design on a sign up form, you could trick a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, right? It's like there's billions of people out there. You only need to trick 1% of them, and you have probably millions of dollars.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But I got a question for you, Tom. So, I mean, John and I have talked about this a little bit in the past. What is your thought on these services like LifeLock? Do you think that they add value, or do you think they add any level of protection, or not really?
LifeLock is really funny because the CEO of LifeLock is the person in America who's had his identity stolen the most in all of America.
He literally put his social security number on billboards saying, "Yeah, steal my identity." And people are like, "Sure."
And that's the thing, is that someone who runs a security company said, I trust our service so much that I'll put my social security number on it. And for a lot of people, that made sense. And for a lot of tech people, that was like, you don't run a security company then, do you? Because if you ran a security company, you would say, I'm going to do this. And then someone would step in and say, no, don't.
That is a bad idea.
Yeah, there should have been, in those ads, there should have been a guy dressed up in a LifeLock uniform with a big sign that said stop, and he should just walk up to the CEO and say no, and then the CEO could point to the screen and say, see, this is how we help you. I almost made a really, really stupid mistake 10 times.
Bad CEO, bad.
They do work. I don't know if they do quality work. I think a lot of the stuff they do is on the litigation side. So if you do get your identity stolen, then they can take a case and work it for you, which would have been great if I had that with Chase, which I did finally get almost resolved. They gave me my money back.
Yeah.
It
And it's I don't know, I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but I did see a news article recently of like these not LifeLock, not implying that LifeLock does this, but these services now that you can pay to have your identity protected, which is basically like it the what the news reporters were kind of uncovering is like if you own a house, you already have this.
yeah.
There's like these services that you have these basic protection services, but people are kind of doing this fear mongering and saying, oh yeah, everybody's getting hacked. You have to pay us to protect you, and it's like, but you're not protecting us. Matter of fact, you're probably taking my information. You're going to get hacked, and then they'll have my information from you.
I'm just waiting to find out that one of these companies is selling their users' information.
Or that.
For the most part, all they're doing is credit monitoring, which you can do yourself through so many of your credit cards, and if you just take a moment.
I don't know how much I make or when I get paid.
You know when you open new credit card accounts, or when you try to buy new houses?
No.
Well, then you can't monitor your credit.
No, my wife monitors my credit. I'm trying to get a Colorado driver's license. They want two forms of proof of residency, which is a bill sent to your house in your name.
Mm-hmm.
Start digging, and I find all of our bills. Everything's in my wife's name. My name is not on a single piece of paper.
You don't actually exist, Thomas. Have you ever stopped to think about that?
You don't need two bills in your name if they're in her name and you've got proof that you're married.
That's right.
She's got that too. For some reason she's really resistant to giving it up. So we're married, right, honey? She goes, yeah, it's in some file somewhere.
Sure. Yeah.
Pretty sure. Kids and I are going to go on a vacation to California. Just keep the house running.
I mean, I couldn't legally take your paycheck from you if we weren't married, right? I mean, that would be crazy. So we must be married.
Technically, I'm giving it to her. Anyways, my marriage is going.
Your driver's license.
My marriage is going really well. Everything's perfect. Nothing to worry about.
Just hope she doesn't start listening to podcasts.
All right, guys. Doom and gloom is over. Can we stop doing this now? I don't want my marriage as part of the doom and gloom segment.
Dude, this whole show has run way too long. You're gonna have some fun trying to edit this one down. You can't cut out my intro.
I barely edit anymore. I just listen to it while I'm watching YouTube videos and then hit compress and send it out to you.
That's why it gets over compressing. He has to redo it.
That only happened once.
How are we an hour and 20 minutes into this?
Yeah, we've been running long. This show's running pretty long. And
Google
again,
Maps
this is
Mars.
why we do not broadcast live.
Google Maps Mars.
I thought we were wrapping up. What are you doing?
That's a real thing. Google Maps Mars. Look, Google Map Mars. It's pretty cool. Let's move it over to show notes. Just get rid of that so it doesn't show up next week.
Hey, look! Do we pirate anything? Was a ticket over here. We can move that over to this one too. Done. I guess you answered that one.
Nice.
I'd love to do a whole show about piracy.
We need to do a whole show of our topics to discuss column, because that's been sitting there since we started the show.
Number 7 is still there. 5 is there.
5 is there, yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Tom explains the Laravel container. That was a show idea at one point.
That was a full. We can just archive and delete.
We can archive that one too. Really?
Oh, hey,
we don't have to do this on the show. We don't do this on the show.
We'll save this for the after show for our Patreon subscribers.
Oh man! All right, that's
This has
it,
been fun.
gentlemen.
I'm glad I made it.
Show is over. It was. I'm glad
I
you
am-
made it too.
I am happy your wife stopped vomiting.
Or at least she's vomiting a lot more quieter now.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
keeping it down.
Hopefully she fell asleep.
All right, Thomas, John, this has been another
Eric.
great episode of PHP Ugly, episode 66. Man, we are just plugging along. 66.
PHP Ugly Live.
I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
You guys are so.
Nailed it! Nailed it!
I thought it was supposed to be right when he was
That's-
done. We got to start like counting down or something.
That makes editing it much harder. All I do is cut the stream right where we all say keep it ugly.